welcome back. Today we are on day 17 of this 30-day challenge. I am super excited as always. Super excited. I had a coffee today, so if my energy feels a little bit extra, that's probably why. But today also the reason I'm excited is because this topic and this tool that I'm going to be sharing with you, this book, is going to be so transformative. It honestly has made such a massive shift in my life in all areas. It's one of my favorite tools that I share with my clients when we work together because it's super simple yet super practical and super deep in how it shifts our habits. And so if you're someone who feels like you are kind of predominantly negative, maybe you get stuck complaining a lot or seeing the glass half empty, then this video is going to be so helpful for you. And let's dive in. So this is a book that I came across back in 2015 when I was in Bali and I was on this year of travel. I'm going to share a personal story to share why this is so powerful, and just explain and pave the way. But I was in Bali. I was there for 2 months just doing yoga every day, meditating every day, living a really peaceful life at the time. And yet I noticed while I was there that my mindset was still predominantly negative. And what so many of us don't realize is that our culture itself is very negative. You can let me know in the comments if you agree and if you've seen that yourself. But I mean, I never considered myself someone who complained a lot. Like I thought, I'm fairly positive and try to see the good things in life. But when I actually started to become aware, when I started reading this book, and practicing the tool in there, I realized like, wow, actually I'm very negative and I complain a lot. And so what I saw is like, my relationships were built on negativity, or they were built on sharing the struggles and complaining about the things that were going wrong. I mean, you can probably think right now and count, you could probably count how many conversations you have, whether it's with family, friends, coworkers, strangers at the grocery store, where it's based on like, how are you doing? Oh, not so well. Or like, oh, this thing's happened. Or, oh, look at the weather. It's not very good today. Or like complaining about the work we have to do or the things that are on our to-do list or whatever went wrong yesterday. Like a lot of our society is built on a foundation of complaining. And this negative energy is very dense and it's so easy to get trapped under. And unfortunately, when we build relationships on this, that's the energy exchange, right? And it's not really enjoyable or beneficial. And so I started to become aware of this, as I said, while I was in Bali. My yoga teacher, she was my favorite. She was my favorite yoga teacher. And she inspired me so much, not only because of this book and like what she shared, but her overall outlook on life. And she was someone who, I really admired and respected, and like she had just this beautiful radiant energy and was so loving and overflowing and just passionate about life and about teaching yoga and bringing these things to her students. And then I found out that her brother had actually passed away like only, I think it was only like a handful of months before. And this hit me really hard because this was 2015. My brother had passed away in 2011, and I was still like working through the grief. And I mean, it's constant anyway, it is always there. But I was still in kind of a place of like, why me a little bit, and a little bit of the victim mentality around that. And so seeing the way she showed up in the world and how radiant and loving and kind she was, even though she had just gone through something tragic. And her brother passed away, it was a freak accident. That's the same with my brother, where it was just sudden, no communication, no goodbyes. And so to see how she was handling it and showing up in the world was very inspiring to me. And it made me realize, wow, I might not be able to control what's going on around me, but I do have the ability to control how I respond to it and how I let it shape me. And do I show up as like someone who's continuing to be struggling or in the negative energy that I've been in the last 4 years and the last like 18 or however many, I don't know how old I was at that time. Or do I choose to show up in a place of love and to work on embodying a more positive energy every day? And so task one, before I get into this tool with you, task one is going to be to, a few weeks ago, we did an energy audit on your life and where things were draining you. Today, we're doing an audit on your personal attitude. And I invite you to be super honest. This isn't to judge yourself. This isn't to like feel like it's bad or it's wrong, but be really honest. Do you show up from a negative mindset most of the time or a positive mindset? Do you tend to see the glass half empty and kind of be moping or complaining or just seeing the lack and the things that are going wrong? Or do you tend to show up from the glass half full and like, wow, there's opportunities and I'm just grateful to be here and I'm really like seeing the good in the people around me, the situations, right? So you might be somewhere in the middle as well. That's totally fine. But task one for day 17 is just to be honest and to journal on this a little bit. Reflect on it, journal on it, and see, which side, or again, in the middle, where do you stand in terms of your day-to-day mindset and how you're showing up each day, okay? Now, what this beautiful yoga teacher shared with me was a book called A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen. And at the time, as I said, I didn't feel like I complained that much, to be honest. I was kind of like, oh, I don't complain at all. And like, here I am in Bali, not really anything to complain about. I had just spent time in Sri Lanka working with elephants, which had been a lifelong dream. I just did my scuba certification in the Philippines and spent a month just in these beautiful beaches and diving, which had been a lifelong dream. I was now in Bali. Hi, welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And then I was in Bali doing yoga, which was a lifelong dream. And I was next headed to Australia, which had been a lifelong dream. So I felt like, on paper, I shouldn't be complaining. There wasn't really anything, I was in a perfect place. I had the things, I was doing the things I really wanted. And yet I noticed my mindset was still very negative and predominantly focused on the things that were going wrong, the things that weren't good enough, and the things that weren't matching my personal expectations. And that was where kind of the complaining came in, or the judgment of like, this thing isn't enough, or I'm not happy with that, or just not being able to celebrate and really embrace and enjoy what I did have. And so I decided to take this challenge. I got the book, A Complaint-Free World, and even though I didn't think I was complaining that much at the time, I started to do this challenge. So what this is, and this is going to be task number 2 for all of you, and again, I said this at the very beginning, it might sound a little bit simple, but I promise you it's going to be so powerful, so helpful in your life. And so the task, the tool and the task, your homework is to just get an elastic band or a bracelet that's like easy to switch wrists. Like don't use a watch because it's probably a pain to switch it. But you're going to get something, and this is going to represent complaining for you. Or if, like me, you maybe don't feel like you complain a lot, but you have that like glass half empty and that really negative self-talk, get a bracelet or an elastic and let this symbolize that negativity, that self-talk, okay? Now what you do, and it's going to sound simple, but it's so powerful, is that every time you catch yourself complaining or in that negative self-talk, you're going to switch the bracelet over to the other wrist. And what this does is it helps to bring conscious awareness to your unconscious patterns. So the things that you're just doing habitually, Because let's be honest, like, you're not wanting to complain. You're probably not wanting to be predominantly negative. You're probably not wanting to be judging or like criticizing yourself, right? I know I definitely wasn't intentionally doing that. It was just part of my programming. It was part of the patterns I'd observed growing up and in society. So by creating this shift, it allowed me to become aware, and awareness is the very first thing I teach with my clients, because you can't make any changes if you're not aware. So self-awareness is huge. So I talk about it so much. So practicing the awareness and seeing like, oh, I just complained again, or oh, here I was focusing on the negative, so I'm going to switch the bracelet over. And the goal is to be able to go 21 days without switching the bracelet at all, which might seem like terrifying. I know for me, I was like, wow, that's gonna, how long is that gonna take me? And every time you do that, you start back at day one. So for instance, I was on day one for probably like a week straight, because I was like complaining, judging, criticizing, negative, and I really challenged myself. Yes, just dug out a bracelet. Yay. Oh, this is going to be so helpful for you. Okay. So yeah, I realized, okay, wow, I'm actually a lot more negative than I think I am. And for bonus points, if you want to, start a note in your phone where you actually quickly journal out what the negative thought was or what the complaint was. So I know for me, again, I was in Bali, I was living the dream, I wasn't working, I was doing yoga and meditating every day, I was riding a little bicycle through Ubud to get to yoga class, going back, eating fresh fruit, enjoying the sun, reading books, like life was bliss. And yet I would catch myself complaining about, the traffic on the way to yoga, or I'd catch myself like judging myself and thinking something really negative when I looked in the mirror, or I'd catch myself complaining about like a text message I got from someone, or like, oh, this person's being really annoying, and they're like, and I would be like, wow, there's a lot of negative energy that I'm kind of just leaking through this mindset without realizing it. So I would switch the bracelet over, I'd write the reason down in my phone, and it really helped me put things in perspective as well, to see like, damn, these things that I'm complaining about or that I'm focusing on are really not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So why am I even putting any energy into it, right? Like, that is a choice. And so that's what I'm really hoping with this tool for you, is like, not only does it help you create awareness of your current thought patterns and maybe the ways you might be more negative in your programming, which again, there's no judgment. This is just about awareness, because from awareness, we can bring change. So having the awareness of it. And then the second part is to feel more empowered about like, whoa, I get to actually choose where I'm going to focus my attention now. And I get to choose to put my energy into thoughts that actually help me feel good. So I know for me, as I said, like there were days where I'd look in the mirror and I'd immediately be criticizing myself and thinking how I wasn't enough. Hey, welcome, I'm glad you're here. I'd be criticizing myself, and then I'd be like, wait a minute, Kara, switch the bracelet and change the thought. Because that thought you're choosing right now is not positive, it's not helping you, it's not making you feel better. And it's, if anything, it's just draining you, it's making you feel worse, and it's keeping you stuck in your old programming. And that old programming is the reason why you are where you are right now. So if we want to get to a new place in our life, this is how we can really start to shift it, okay? Let me know down below if this is making sense so far. So happy that you guys are resonating and that you're here watching. So yeah, task 1 is to take a bit of an audit and just be really honest with yourself of like, am I predominantly glass half empty? Am I predominantly glass half full? Am I in the middle? Where am I really showing up? What thoughts am I giving power to? And how do they make me feel? How do they leave me? Task 2 is to get that bracelet or that elastic. I like that you have 21 days. Totally. And so 21 days, I can imagine it would take me a while to get that. Definitely. And that's okay. And so like make it a game. And this is what I always tell my clients is like, don't beat yourself up if you're back at day 1. Because like that competitive nature might come out where you're like, or that just feeling defeated of like, oh, I'm back at day 1. Don't let it mean that. You get to create the meaning behind it as well. So like, let it just be a game where you're excited to just keep making these changes, because every single day is a huge step forward, and you get to the point where your mindset shifts. And so for me, I took months. Good. It would make me even more determined. That's good. That's perfect. That's the right attitude. I know for me, I was like, same thing. I'm like, like I'm going to get there. And so I was day 1, day 2. And then I fell back to day 1 again. And I was like, okay. Now it didn't take as long. Now I'm back to day 4. And then I went back to day 1. Don't wear jewelry. Someone just sent me a bracelet for free. There you go. Manifestation. It showed up for this exact challenge. That's so funny. I'm glad that you are here to watch. It's totally happening for a reason. So, yeah, then I got to like day 7, day 8, day 9, and then fell back to day 1. But once I got to that point, then it actually became easy. And I did get to day 21, and I remember how accomplished I felt. And even more than that was just the fact that I actually had started to shift my programming and my patterning. And I think that's what I was going to say, and I totally forgot, was that a lot of research shows that 21 days is how long it takes to create a new habit. So even if it's not like 21 days straight to get there, you fall back, you start again, you fall back, you start again. What you're doing though is you're creating new pathways in your brain. You're literally creating a new system and a new way to think. So the beautiful, beautiful thing, and the reason why this is so powerful and why I hope everyone does try this out, is that I used to be predominantly negative, glass half empty, lack, struggle, stress, overwhelm, criticizing myself, complaining, judging, all of these things. And now those things are very rare. And like, of course, I still have moments, and there's still like the new things where I feel challenged or where those old patterns might come up. But I would say like 95% of the time, my default has radically shifted to a place where I am seeing the glass half full, and I am able to be predominantly positive. Like, complaints don't really pass my mind the same way that they used to, because there's just like, it just doesn't make sense to me anymore, because I'm like, oh, that's not worth the energy, or like the judgment or the criticism is just not worth the energy. When I remember how excited or how good I felt when I got to 21 days, but it did take such a long time to get there. Yeah, totally. But it was still worth it, right? And you've made huge strides in your mindset by committing to that and by pushing to get to those 21 days. So that is going to be the task 2. And then task 3 is just like, I invite you to keep me updated. Feel free to share in the group as you go, and comment and share like day 1, or like, okay, I made it to day 2, right? And celebrate with us and share your breakthroughs. And this absolutely changed my life in so many ways, in really allowing me to take power back over my mind and over the thoughts, and to realize that like, I actually have power in how I want to see the world. Because here's the deal, like, yes, we all have struggle, and yes, there's stresses and things we wish were different, but focusing on that isn't actually solving a problem. And if anything, the more we focus on it, the worse we feel, and the more disempowered we feel. So by practicing this and working on shifting the thoughts to the positive, and like catching that negative thought, switching the bracelet, focusing on a more positive one, right? By doing that, you start to see like, no matter what's going on around me, I still have power and control to see the good. And that allows me to still feel better, to show up at a better place, and it brings that power back to you. So this has been a massive part of my journey. Again, it doesn't have to be just for complaining. You can use it for those negative thoughts. I used it for my self-image as well, and I did a 21-day challenge of like any negative thoughts towards myself, I'm switching the bracelet. And that was a huge part of me reprogramming the way I saw myself, because instead of just constantly beating myself up and giving power to like negative thoughts and judgments and criticisms and you're not enough, I kept switching those, catching those, and being like, okay, I'm gonna put in something positive here. Lots of hearts, yay! I love it when you guys put hearts. I was like, I'm gonna switch to the positive, and that allowed me to start to see, hey, if I focus on things I love about myself or like about myself or value in myself, even if it starts small, over time, I start to see more and I start to feel better and I start to feel more confident, and I realize, wow, I actually have so much to bring to the world, and I get to celebrate all that I am. I get to love all that I am. So you can really reprogram your mind for so many things. More hearts. You can really reprogram your mind for so many things by doing this. So I'm going to leave that here for today. I really hope this was helpful. Again, keep me posted. Let me know how it works out for you as you navigate your way through the challenge. The book, one more time, in case anyone wants to get it, I know you can get it on Amazon. It's called A Complaint-Free World. It's just a really great reminder of how society itself is very programmed in a limited way. So you'll also probably become very aware of that as you do this, where you start to notice, oh, my relationships with these people is mostly like just complaining, and like them complaining about what's going wrong and then me trying to support and validate it, but then we're both not really feeling that great. And then you're like, oh, my coworkers, the environment at work is just very negative and very complaining. Like, nah, that's not really what I enjoy, right? And so you're going to notice that this is actually, it's not just you, it's like society in general, which is why also you might feel a little bit strange, or it might be extra challenging to shift that. But again, you have the power, and this is going to be such a great tool in helping you get there. So just stay in your own lane and don't judge yourself if you mess up, or don't judge yourself if you are complaining. You know, just give yourself grace and love and compassion, because you're thinking that way for a reason, and it's been programmed in you. It's not like your fault, but now you have the ability to change it. So hope that was helpful. Thank you all for being here on day 17, and I will check in tomorrow with a new video, a new training, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Bye now.